Final witnesses testifying today in a nearly month-long trial over who should pay the cost of the Dakota Access Pipeline protests and the cleanup. One of the last witnesses was former Indian Affairs Executive Director Scott Davis. He said if the Army Corps of Engineers had just enforced their jurisdiction on the land early, the protests could have been stopped day one. He believes many of those protesters came from out of state. Despite testimony ending today, it could take up to 6 months for federal and state attorneys to submit their closing statements and for there to be a decision reached.